Hi, I'd like to discuss a couple of different types of aggression. Quite often, people lump a dog as being aggressive without going into what type of aggression the dog has. There are many different categories of aggression, so while this is not by no means a full list, I want to just go over a couple of basic things that you should be looking at. The first thing that you look at is whether the aggression is effective or non-effective. Effective aggression is when the dog does something that's normal for within its species. Non-effective aggression is just that, when the dog does something that's not within the norms of its species. So, if a dog is walking with an owner and all of a sudden turns around and jumps up and bites the owner for no reason, there would be something that's non-effective. Two dogs that are going for a bone at the same time and get into a little bit of a scuffle would be more of an effective aggression. Okay, the next thing you then look at is whether it's owner directed, if the aggression is directed only to unknown humans, or if the aggression is directed to both owner and unknown humans. Okay, after that, we then look to see if the aggression is offensive or defensive. Just like it sounds, if it's offensive, you then see the dog go forward and go into an offensive state. Defensive aggression is when the dog becomes aggressive while trying to back the person away or to protect itself, to react off a past experience that puts it into a defensive mode. Okay. As far as the different types of aggression, there are a lot of different categories. Okay. The first one we'll mention is dominance-based aggression. This is something that's often mislabeled, but basically dominance-based aggression, if the dog could talk, the dog would be saying, "How dare you?" A dog that's very dominant will turn around and display aggression out of that dominant nature. So you might see this in a number of different ways. A very common one is when the dog is resting somewhere or sleeping and somebody disturbs the dog and the dog gets aggressive. That's a pretty good example of dominance-based aggression, where the dog says, "Hey, how dare you be disturbing me?" Other types of aggression could have components of dominance-based aggression in it, and one example would be possessive aggression. Okay, possessive aggression is when the dog's possessing different items. You could have food aggression, which falls under possessive aggression. You could have the aggression to only high value objects like special treats or special bones. You also could have possessive aggression towards objects or people. So, if the dog has one owner that he won't let anyone near, quite often, while there might be a dominance component to it, the dog's really possessing the person, saying, "This is my person, you can't come near the person or I'm going to react." Okay. Another category of aggression is territorial. Territorial aggression usually occurs within a household, a yard, a vehicle, and it's when the dog looks at it as their property, their belongings, and somebody that is not a family member usually will go to come near the area and the dog will react. Another type of aggression is anxiety-based aggression. This is another one that is very often misused or overused. Anxiety-based aggression is really when a dog either has a past association that's been developed that causes the dog to become anxious, and if you had the dog hooked up to medical testing, you'd be able to see an increase in their anxiety, both chemical and through brainwaves. Anxiety-based aggression is really situation-based where the dog has that fear or anxiety reaction and reacts almost innately, where as soon as I see or hear or smell a particular thing, I get fearful, and it's probably a bad word, but I have a reaction that causes me to have this anxious component, which results in me either vocalizing or biting to stop the situation. Okay, another type of aggression is interspecies aggression. Interspecies aggression and predatory aggression are two different things. Predatory aggression is when the dog's doing something that's basically normal for its species. So, if somebody turns around and lets a dog out in the yard by itself, unattended, and a groundhog or a rabbit runs past it and the dog goes after it to attack the animal, this is really a predatory reaction. Interspecies aggression is really aggression based towards either another dog, a cat, a horse, but it's not something that is looked at as a prey. Okay, interspecies aggression, we have a couple of different subcategories. You have to look to see, is the dog aggressive with dogs it cohabitates with? Quite often, you'll have the dog is fine with dogs that cohabitate together, but the dog's aggressive to unknown dogs or dogs on the outside. You also could have a dog that is okay, let's say with a cat that cohabitates, but any other cat that goes to come into the house or that it sees, it'll react to. During other lectures, we'll go through why this occurs with the different types of interspecies aggression, and there really are reasons. But we want to just bring up the different types. Okay, and the final one we'll talk about is medical-induced aggression. Medical-induced aggression could be caused from a pain response, such as an injury. The dog's in pain, I react. It also could be caused by an illness. This could be something like thyroid, where the levels are off and the dog becomes aggressive for no reason. You could have something known as a silent seizure. This is something that you've probably heard described as rage syndrome. And it's pretty rare, but it basically looks like a light switch, where there's no warning, there's no indicators. The dog goes from being fine to highly aggressive and then right back to fine. Another medical condition that causes aggression quite often is something called CCD. Just like humans that get dementia, dogs wind up having canine cognitive dysfunction that causes them to send off different signals that don't make sense to other dogs and can cause interspecies aggression all of a sudden, or the dog could be having what a human dementia patient would have, and during certain situations or times get aggressive to the people he or she never got aggressive with before. So there's lots of different aggressions, and like I said, this is not going to be a complete list. We just wanted to give an example of what you should be looking at to know that there's different levels and different types, instead of grouping a dog together as an aggressive dog. In future lectures, we'll go through more detailed stuff of each one of these categories. Thank you.